Shadow people, also known as shadow men, shadow folk, or shadow beings, are said to be the shadow-like creatures of the supernatural origin, which appear as dark forms in the peripherals of people's vision, and disintegrate or move between walls when noticed. Reports of shadow people are similar to ghost sightings, but differ in that shadow people are not reported as having human features, wearing modern or period clothes, or attempting to communicate with the witness. Also, witnesses do not report having the same feeling of being in the presence of something that was once human. Some individuals have described being menaced, chased, or more rarely, attacked by these shadow people. There have also been reports of shadow people appearing in front of the witness or lingering for several seconds before disappearing. Witnesses report that encounters are typically accompanied by a feeling of dread. Most accounts of shadow people describe them as black humanoid silhouettes with no discernible mouths, noses, eyes, or any expression whatsoever. Though purported witnesses have also described child-sized humanoids or shapeless masses. Some reports also include red glowing eyes. Generally, they are described as lacking masses, though their specific nature, from a two-dimensional shadow to a vaporous or distorted three-dimensional form, their movement is often described as being quick and disjointed. They may first move slowly, as if they were passing through a heavy liquid, and then rapidly hop to another part of a witness' surroundings. Some witnesses describe this movement as though the shadow entities they have seen danced from one wall to the next, or as moving around the room as if they were on a specific track. Some accounts differ from the above and instead describe a completely black creature with red eyes and a cloak, and a gentleman's hat. This variation has become known as the Hat Man. Those little flickers of darkness you see out of the corner of your eye, those aren't just spots or dust or a trick of light. Maybe they're ghosts, as some people believe, but I'm convinced they're shadow people, beings from a dimension close to our own, but not able to see when we focus fully on them. I've always been able to see the shadow people. When I was young, my mother had my eyes checked by several different opticians because I complained about the things I saw. I learned to keep quiet about them, but it took a while. My first encounter with them took place when I was 3 or 4 years old. We lived in a high-rise flat with a sweeping view of the hills and the city people below us. My best friend at the time, Michelle, was over on a playdate. Her family lived across the land and we spent most of our time together, then apart. That day, she greeted me by running into my room, fueled by a ridiculous burst of enthusiasm. "We have to play with my new dolls!" she screamed at me. I was much more into dinosaurs and bugs, and that sounded like a terrible way to spend the afternoon. "No," I insisted. "We have to play imagination. Godzilla versus the killer wasps." I tried to stomp around the room and look menacing. Michelle huffed and disappeared. She was much faster than I was, and I wasn't very good at hiding people. But for all that, I should have seen her when I turned the corner, and I didn't. And I saw a shadow looking at the corner of my vision, thinking it must be Michelle. I turned towards it, calling her name. There was no answer, and the shadow continued to dance and dart out of range of my direct stare, as if it were avoiding making eye contact with me. As the years went by, I began to believe that the shadow people were my friends, or even my protectors, like guardian angels. But then, the nights became terrifying. I started to see the shadow people in the real shadows of my room. Many of them darted away when I tried to stare at them, but others hung around in the corners, clustering like cobwebs. Then, the noise started. It was like the wind caressing leaves until they whispered. It was a language I couldn't comprehend, words I knew I would never understand, unless I was somehow in their dimension. As the whispering grew more frenetic, the shadow people began to come together and move towards me. I bolted to my parents and shook them away. Of course they didn't believe me, trying to coax me into believing it was just a dream or just my imagination. I know it was the shadow people, and if you see a shadow within the shadows, or a shape flitting at the edge of your vision, you may not be alone.